Rasputin, the mad monk who destroyed an empire. The man no one could control. Few figures in history have inspired such a mix of fascination, fear, and disgust as Grigory Rasputin, a peasant mystic who rose from the frozen plains of Siberia to the heart of the Russian Empire. A monk without holy orders, an illiterate wanderer who became the spiritual guide and eventual curse of the Romanov dynasty. To some, he was a saint. To others, a demon. To the Tsarina, a savior. To the nobility, the ruin of the empire. His death on a freezing night in December 1916 became one of the greatest legends in modern history. But to understand how one man could shake an empire, we must go back to where it all began. Deep in the frozen lands of Siberia. Origins in Siberia. Rasputin was born in 1869 in the small village of Pokrovskoye, a cluster of wooden houses along the Tura River. He was the son of a peasant and received no formal education. Those who knew him as a boy said he was restless, unpredictable, yet strangely magnetic. After years of drinking and debauchery, Rasputin experienced a powerful spiritual crisis. He left his wife and children and began wandering from monastery to monastery, living as a pilgrim. Along the way, he developed the charisma that would define him. Piercing eyes, an entrancing voice, and the unshakable belief that he had been touched by God. He began calling himself a starets, a holy wanderer, healer of both body and soul. By 1903, rumors of a peasant miracle worker had reached St. Petersburg, capital of the empire. And there, his legend began to take shape. Arrival at court and the healing of the young Tsar. In 1905, Rasputin was introduced at court by a group of religious figures. Almost by chance, he met Tsarina Alexandra Feodorovna, wife of Tsar Nicholas II. She was deeply devout, but fragile and tormented. Her only son, Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a disease that caused unstoppable internal bleeding. When the boy fell gravely ill, Rasputin was summoned to the palace. He prayed for hours beside the child's bed. By morning, the fever had dropped. There was no medical explanation, but for the Tsarina, it was a sign from God. Miraculously, Alexei's bleeding began to slow and his pain subsided. Modern historians believe Rasputin's miracle may have had a scientific cause. He likely ordered the cessation of aspirin, a common painkiller at the time that, by thinning the blood, actually worsened the boy's condition. That simple decision, combined with the calm and faith he inspired in the Tsarina, turned an instinctive act into what seemed like a divine healing. From that day on, Rasputin became a constant presence at court. He whispered advice to the Tsarina, spoke with the Tsar, and preached a simple, emotional faith. But his growing influence fueled envy and hatred. The nobility saw him as a fraud, the people as a devil who had bewitched their empress. Power, scandal, and the decline of the empire. Over the years, Rasputin's role expanded far beyond that of spiritual advisor. The Tsarina trusted him completely, and even ministers began seeking his approval. Soon, he became the living symbol of corruption at the heart of the empire. He drank excessively, boasted of purifying women through sin, and indulged in endless debauchery. Yet every time the Tsar tried to exile him, Rasputin returned, because every time Alexei fell ill, only Rasputin seemed able to save him. Meanwhile, World War I ravaged Russia. Tsar Nicholas left for the front, leaving the Tsarina and Rasputin behind her to govern. The people began to whisper. The empire was being ruled by a mad peasant. His fate was now sealed. The conspiracy, Russia's darkest night. It was the night of December 16, 1916. A group of nobles, Prince Felix Yusupov, Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, and politician Vladimir Purishkevich, gathered inside the Yusupov Palace. They were determined to end Rasputin's influence once and for all. He was lured there under the pretext of meeting Princess Irina, Yusupov's wife. In the cellar, he was offered wine and pastries laced with cyanide. Rasputin ate, drank, smiled. But he didn't die. Panicking, Yusupov grabbed a revolver and shot him in the chest. Rasputin fell. Silence. Then, suddenly, he rose to his feet. He staggered toward the door, trying to escape into the snowy courtyard. Purishkevich fired twice more, once in the back, once in the head. This time, Rasputin collapsed. Yet the legend claimed he was still breathing. The conspirators bound his body, wrapped it in a sheet, and threw it into the icy Neva River through a hole in the ice. The discovery and the autopsy. 3 days later, the frozen Neva gave back the corpse. His face was disfigured, his hair frozen solid. Witnesses swore his eyes were open and his hands reached toward the surface, as if he had tried to save himself. The official autopsy, conducted by Dr. Dmitry Kosarotov, reported water in the lungs. According to this version, Rasputin was still alive when thrown into the river, and he drowned beneath the ice. That conclusion fueled the myth of the mad monk who could survive poison and bullets alike. But later analyses told a different story. Photographs and reports revealed no clear signs of drowning, while the gunshot wounds, one to the chest, one to the back, and one point blank to the head, were lethal on their own. Most historians now agree that Rasputin was already dead before entering the river, and that the drowning tale served to feed the legend. Today, the majority of experts concur. It wasn't the icy waters of the Neva that killed Rasputin. It was the bullets of his assassins. And yet, the mystery doesn't end there. Some witnesses claimed that British intelligence agents may have been involved, fearing Rasputin would convince the Tsar to make peace with Germany. A political killing, not just a personal one. The immortal myth of Rasputin. With Rasputin's death, the Romanov dynasty wasn't saved. Only months later, the revolution consumed everything. The Tsar and his family were executed, and Rasputin's hastily buried body was later burned by the revolutionaries to prevent any cult of worship. And yet, the legend endured. Rasputin became a symbol of Russian mysticism, of secret power, of humanity's obsession with charisma and faith. His image lives on in books, films, and songs. An eternal ghost between history and myth. Was he truly a saint? A fraud? Or simply a mirror of the chaos into which Russia was falling? Conclusion. The story of Rasputin is not just about one man. It's a story about fear and faith, power and superstition, and how a single human being can become the symbol of a collapsing empire. Because Rasputin was not merely killed, he was erased. And yet, like all legends, he never truly died. If you enjoyed this journey into history, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. Every week, a new mystery between art, power, and destiny.